transparent, it is colorless, and if you see it like that under a microscope, you will not be able to see anything. So that is why before we look into what is there inside a cell, we will learn about something which is called staining, how to color a cell. So what we generally, whenever we have to see a sample of a cell, we put a stain or a dye or a color. Normally we use eosin, which is slightly reddish in color, safranin, again orangish in color, crystal violet. All these colors, when we give a drop of it to the sample, they give a color to the, at least the boundary of the cell, and some of the cell organelles are also colored. So it is very easy for us to recognize them. Now coming on to the parts of a cell. All cells show three basic structural similarities. They are composed of three basic things, all of the cells. Apart from that, they might have one or two other things also, but these three things are present in all cells, plant, animal. All kinds of cells will show these three things. The first one is the cell membrane, which is the outer boundary. It is also called the plasma membrane. Next is cytoplasm, and the third thing is nucleus. So all these three things are present in a cell. Plant cells, apart from this, plant cells contain an additional outer wall. See, these three things are present in all cells. Apart from this, plant cells also and the bacterial cells also contain an additional outer lining, which is a tough or a thing which is called the cell wall. And this lining is what actually Robert Hooke saw when he saw it under his simple microscope. This cellular cell wall is made up of cellulose, and it is this structure because if you know, plants do not have any skeletal system and plants do not have any other way to protect themselves. So it is this cellulose outer cell wall which is made up of cellulose, which protects them from temperature variations, which protects them from wind if it is the wind is blowing faster, so the plants can break. So to some extent it is what provides a stiff structure to the plant cell and also to the pressure changes that are happening in the atmosphere. You see, animals can still move away from a place because most of them are non-sedentary, they are able to move, but plants are sessile. So this cell wall, which is made up of cellulose, provides them that extra protection and makes them the cell of the plant much more firmer. Now we will start with these three essential parts of a cell. The first one is cell membrane. We know each cell is it's defined by a delicate membrane. This membrane is present in all the cells, and this membrane is also called the plasma membrane. It is very, very thin and it is very delicate, and it also allows, the best quality of the cell membrane is it allows very few materials to pass through it, either leave the cell or come into the cell. So not everything can pass into the cell and not everything can come out of the cell. So therefore this is also called a selectively permeable membrane. So it selects what it wants it to come inside the cell and what it wants to go out of the cell. The next thing it does is it protects the cell. Obviously it is providing an outer covering, so it is protecting the cell also, not as much as the cell wall in the case of plant cells. Then it provides this shape to the cell. It allows only some material to enter and leave the cell, and it forms the boundary of the cell. So if you observe a cell under a normal resolution microscope which has less power, you will observe the cell membrane very, very clearly because it takes on to the stain very easily. And this is what we do when we take you to the labs. In class 8, we make you observe certain specimens in the lab, so you can easily observe the cell wall along with the nucleus. We will be discussing nucleus and cytoplasm. So cell membrane is something that is very easy to observe. Now we come to nucleus. Nucleus is the most important important component of the cell. I have put a star also just to prove that point, because it is the command center of the cell. It is where all cell related metabolic activities like exchange of the material is decided. Okay, so it is like the command center of the cell. It is a large spherical membrane bound body present in the cell. So when you stay in the cell, since it is quite large, it is very easily visible in all cells. In animal cells, and I have made this diagram so that you can compare it side by side. In animal cells, it is present almost in the center of the cell, whereas in a plant cell, you will see that it is present at one side of the cell, up, down, somewhere here, but it is at the side of the cell, because center of the plant cell is filled with something else. It's filled with a vacuole or a cell sap. I'll come to that later. Now, what is a nucleus? What does a nucleus comprise of? It is basically made up of 4 parts. The first one is the nuclear membrane. So this is the outer membrane of the nucleus, and on this outer membrane there are nuclear pore also. Okay, it's a double layered membrane. So there are 2 layers of this membrane, and on this you can see a nuclear pore also. Through this exchange of bigger molecules can take place. Okay, then it is filled with a gelatin kind of a substance, a thick viscous substance, and this is called the nucleoplasm. It is also called karyoplasm in certain books. You will find the reference of it as K-A-R-Y-O plasm, P-L-A-S-M. So then you have the nucleolus, which is present in the nucleus. It's a dense spherical body which is present in the nucleus, and this spherical body basically contains lots of proteins and RNAs. Okay, so when the nucleus is dividing, then this nucleolus is not visible at that time. Okay, now chromosomes. This is something very important and very interesting. So these are thread-like structures which are floating in the nucleoplasm. This thread-like structure is basically made up of DNA. I hope you all know what is DNA. DNA is deoxyribonucleic acid. So these are on DNA we have, and this DNA is which carries our genetic map or the genes that we get from our parents. So all this is present on these fibers. These fibers, when you see a cell normally, you will see them as fibers, so that is why they are called chromatin threads. But when the cell is dividing, and we know that cells multiply by cell division, so they break from between. So when the cell is dividing, it is these genes, these chromatin threads come together, and then at that time we call them chromosomes, because that is the time we only see chromosomes. We don't see nucleolus, we don't see the nucleoplasm. We only see these threads which are condensed together at the time of cell division. Okay, so basically this is something which carries the genes, and these genes are what will decide. Like sometimes you would have heard that your people come and say, okay, you look like your father, but your chin or your nose is from your mother's side. So things like that are like our genes. This is what makes us what we are, our genes. So these genes are what are carried on this chromatin, in these chromatin threads, which is composed of DNA. Okay, so they carry the traits of our parents, and chromosomes, when these threads, chromatin threads, condense together, and they divide the genetic information. So we have 2 cells which will have equal amount of genetic information. Okay, now what are the functions of nucleus? Nucleus controls all metabolic activities of the cell, like the CPU of computers. So like the CPU of computers controls all the functions of the computer, similarly nucleus is the CPU or the brain of our cell. It carries, and this is the most important one, it carries the genetic traits which are responsible to be passed off to the offspring. So whatever you get from your parents comes through the genes only, and these genes are present in the form of chromatin threads in the nucleus. Okay, so here I have drawn the comparison between a plant cell and a animal cell. Plant cell will have a thicker outside wall which is called the cell wall. The cell wall is basically made of cellulose. It gives strength to the plant cell. Plant cells are generally elongated, whereas animal cells can of course vary in size and in shape, but we will draw this common shape only. And in plant cell, so far we have studied about nucleus. So nucleus is not present in the center. In animal cell, a nucleus is present in the center, and they all contain, basically the nucleus is of similar kind in both of these. Okay, so here I have marked the nucleus. It contains, the outer wall is called the nuclear membrane, the inner gelatin-like structure is called the nucleoplasm, and we have this chromatin threads which are floating in it, and this central dense figure, dark figure sphere is called the nucleolus. So now we come to cytoplasm. Cytos means cell and plasm means fluid. So it is the fluid which is present in the cell. It's a jelly-like fluid, a thick viscous fluid which is present inside the cell membrane, and all chemical reactions of the cell take place here. It also contains many small cell organelles which are part of the cell metabolism, which perform important functions for the cell. They are suspended in this jelly-like material. Okay, so mitochondria is the first, we come to these cell organelles. The mitochondria is the first cell organelle that we will be studying about. It's a rod-like structure. Now this is also called the powerhouse of the cell because it is where the energy is produced for all cell activities. The food that we eat, it is oxidized through the process of respiration at mitochondria, and then the energy is released. So this is called the powerhouse of the cell. Then you have the vacuoles. In a plant you will find a huge large vacuole, whereas in animals you have small scattered vacuoles. So these vacuoles are sac-like structures to store food or for cell secretion, and when the cell secretion is dissolved in water and it is stored in the cell, it is called cell sap, and in plants the central vacuole that is present here contains the cell sap. Now we have come to another tube kind of network kind of a structure which is present in the cell. It is called endoplasmic reticulum. It is two types of endoplasmic reticulum are present. Sometimes they have grains over them, so they are called rough endoplasmic reticulum. Sometimes, like here, you can see grains over them which are actually ribosomes attached to these endoplasmic reticulum. And when sometimes they are just smooth ones and they are scattered here, generally you find them around the nucleus. Okay, so this is present around the nucleus membrane, attached to the nucleus membrane, and they are basically for the production of the cell products. Now we come to ribosomes, which are most of the times attached to the rough endoplasmic reticulum. These are crystal kind of a structure, and these are responsible for the protein synthesis. This is what makes the endoplasmic reticulum a little rough in appearance. Then we come to Golgi bodies or dictosomes, again a tubular, a sac kind of a structure present in both plants and animals, and this is what is responsible for the secretion of enzymes, proteins and hormones. Okay. It is also called dictosomes. Sometimes you refer it to as Golgi apparatus. Now we come to a very interesting part of the cell, which is only present in the plant cells. So these are called plastids. Basically these are three kinds of cells, three different kinds of plastids, cell organelles, which according to the color that they contain, we segregate them into three different kinds. The first one is chloroplast, which contains the green pigment, the chlorophyll, so it gives the green color to the plant cell. Then you can see the various colors that are present in plants, the red, blue, pink, yellow, all these things, all these pigments are found in chromoplast. So these colors are found in chromoplast. Then we have leucoplast, which are basically colorless plastids, but they are there for the storage of food. Next is centrosomes. These are present in the animal cell, and these you can only see them at the time of cell division, when the cell is dividing. And lastly, last of all the cell organelles that we will be learning about is lysosomes, which is called the suicide bag of the cell. So when an organelle is not producing, is not working properly, is not being able to being repaired, then that organelle is digested by the lysosomes, and it is then excreted out through the cell membrane. So that was all about organelles. But if you see these cells, this is a plant cell, this is an animal cell, so you can easily compare what is there in a plant cell and what is there in an animal cell. You can actually make out the differences also. The first thing is a presence of cell wall, which is made up of cellulose, present in the plant cell, and it is not present in the animal cell. Next is presence of very large central vacuole, which contains the cell sac in the plant cell, whereas in animal cell there are small vacuoles present. The third one is presence of plastids, which is there in the plant cell, and which is not present in the animal cell. And the last one is presence of centriole, which is present in the animal cell and visible only during the cell division. So even if by the look of these two cells, you know that they are different. And also there is one more difference, the plant cells are slightly bigger as compared to the animal cells. Also, cytoplasm and nucleus together are called protoplasm, or the one which contains life. So this is the living part of the cell. So when the cell dies, you can only see the cell wall or the cell membrane, but you do not see the inside structures because the protoplasm is no longer present in it. Now we come to the last part of this chapter, and that is the prokaryotic and eukaryotic cells. Pro means primitive, karyon means nucleus. So by the name only we know that in this the nucleus is of the primitive kind. That is what we believe, that when life started on earth, these were the first cells which appeared, and in this the cells do not have a proper nucleus. The genetic material is scattered in the cells. The nucleus doesn't contain a nuclear membrane. So nucleus is not membrane bound here, and all the genetic material is scattered in the cell, and the nucleus is not well defined. So that is why we call it as a prokaryotic cell, and it is present in bacteria and blue-green algae, which we say that they were the first living organisms that came on earth. Now we come to a eukaryotic cell. Eu means true and karyon means nucleus. So here in these cells, the nuclear membrane is present, and it's a double layered membrane which is present, and all the genetic material is stored, is condensed in a nucleus only, and it is present in the cells of all organisms except in the bacteria and in blue-green algae. So that was about prokaryotic and eukaryotic cell. Now we come to cell division and growth. See, we all know, according to the cell theory also, all organisms start their life from one single cell. So if we started our life from one single cell, and today we have trillion of cells, so how is it possible? Okay, so this is possible by cell division. Okay, so cell division is a process in which the cells divide and form new cells. What happens is, here the nucleus first contains, it is the one which contains the genetic material. It first condenses and then it splits into two new cells, and these new cells are called the daughter cells. It happens not only for the growth of an organism, it also helps for repair and to remove the damaged cells. So cells are constantly being damaged and new cells are being regenerated. And why? How is it happening? Because of the cell division. Okay, so it is not only for the growth but also for replacing the old cells or the damaged cells. Now, there are the unicellular organisms reproduce by this method only, by cell division. Their complete body divides into two and their daughter cells are formed. Our skin cells continuously divide till the time we are living. and the nerve cells do not, they stop after an age. So it is specific to the cells, the functions they are performing, when, till what time will they keep on dividing. Okay, so if I have to show you diagrammatically what happens is, this is a cell, and in this the nucleus has condensed. Okay, the nucleus material has come together, and in this is the condition when you only see the chromosomes in the nucleus. Okay, so it is not floating in the form of chromatin material, it is only the threads, the chromosomes that are visible at that time. Now the nucleus gradually starts expanding, it starts becoming elongated, and after that you can see a cavity or a depression in the cell membrane developing, and two different nucleuses are formed, which leads to the formation of two different cells. So this is how we grow in size and in number of cells by cell division, and with this we finish this chapter.